Hi, Femi.
Hello, nice to meet you, Elena.
Great to meet you too. Tell us a little bit about your business, what you help people with, and what are you passionate about?
Yes, thank you very much. So I've been an entrepreneur since 2014, September 2014. I used to work in investment banking, and my background is also in law. So I was in the corporate world for a long time, but I was not happy. And so I decided to quit and find something else to do. I wasn't sure what else to do. And so I've worked in a number of different businesses since then. And that's where I get, I guess, my wealth of knowledge. So about 10 years of experience as an entrepreneur. And now what I help clients with, which is predominantly, I would say, startups, scale ups, as well as traditional business, is to conduct an analysis, so business analysis, and then find ways to help them grow their business. So our goal is to, well, vastly increase their revenue using some proven strategies that I have developed over the years. And like I said, we start with the business analysis and then we work on practical things, things like the SEO, the content marketing, the email marketing. And this is how we use, this is my passion to help these businesses to scale.
Oh, amazing, amazing. Yes, because there's such a big transition between corporate and starting your own business. It requires so different mindset, yes, and that resistance because you have to put so many hats which you never would before. Yes, and you
Mm.
have to do so many different tasks which you don't know how to do in many cases. So, what was for you? What was really important to build successful business in your transition?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, you mentioned that you have to wear lots of hats. Yes, that is completely true. As a you need to be a specialist or you need to be a generalist in order to be able to. That's what I mean. You need to be a generalist, not a specialist. But you
Mhm.
need to be a generalist in business in order to start a business and to grow it and to become successful. Now, as a in the corporate world, you're a specialist, so you only work on one particular thing, and there's so many aspects of business that you don't know, that you don't understand. And see, when I started working as an entrepreneur, I didn't understand this particular point. I didn't know anything about business, and you know, I had this assumption that it would be easy, and then it took me a while, you know, learning trial and error on the job to learn a lot of different skills. And it is these types of skills that I bring to my clients. So, for example, there's a client that we started working with recently, and there are many aspects of her business. So we were supposed to just work on her growth, but you know, the SEO and the email marketing side, but there's a lot of other things that we've brought to her as well. So, for example, conducting a website audit, right, to understand exactly what is going on with her website, what kind of traffic she's getting at the moment, what are her, you know, what when people come to her website, are they clicking off immediately? How much time are they spending on her website? Things like this, her content marketing strategy, for example, her LinkedIn strategy, what is her online reputation? All these things are very important because because our job is really lead generation and to grow their revenue. But the thing is, in the past, I've discovered that I've worked with clients and I've brought them very good leads, but they don't go anywhere. And the reason is because there are other aspects of their business that don't work properly. So their sales process, for example. So these are all of these things that we plug in to the client's business as well as help them with practical things like search engine optimization and email marketing.
Amazing. So, what are the most necessary steps you would say people have to consider when they plan to leave corporate and start their own business? Because in the beginning, it can be so overwhelming.
Hmm. The things to consider, I would say that I think a lot of people in the corporate world are naive as to what it takes to become an entrepreneur. A lot of people assume that just because, so for example, I worked for a large investment bank, well, a lot of large investment banks, but I'll give you one example. So HSBC, for example, is one of the investment banks that I work for. And if you look up HSBC, they have 50,000 employees across the world, right? When you start working in this environment, someone will come to you and say, hey, these are our set of rules in this that you have to follow, right? Now, what a lot of employees don't really understand is that those rules that they've given you, they have been created over thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of hours to streamline this business, right? And this is all you're going to do within the business, right? As an entrepreneur, you need to create that rule book, right? And a lot of, and like I said hundreds of thousands of hours that HSBC has worked on this, that they've hired specialists to do, to really streamline this process. As an entrepreneur, you need to create that process. And that process is actually extremely difficult. When I look back on the systems that all of these businesses put in place over these years, I'm actually very impressed because as an entrepreneur, you need to create these systems, and putting those systems in place, getting people to use those systems is a very, very difficult thing to do. A lot of people, corporate people, assume that, oh, if I have a brilliant idea, people are going to buy my idea. But actually, that's not the way it works. There's so many people who have brilliant ideas. In fact, you can Google billion-dollar ideas, and a lot of them will pop up. But if you don't have the right systems in place, if you don't have enough capital, if your mindset is not right, if you don't have the mental capability, or if you don't acquire the right EQ or sales processes, etc., your business will never succeed, no matter how great your idea is.
Yes, yes, so true. So, what is the necessary steps that people have to take? For example, they decide to quit and they have no experience. What would you say would be the fastest way to get everything, as you said, in place?
Well, I mean that is it's a it's a complicated question, but I'll try to simplify the answer, right? So first and foremost, I would say that you need to be able to come up with some type of business idea that makes sense for you, right? Because, like I said before, there are many, many billion-dollar, trillion-dollar ideas out there, but you might not be the person to implement that idea, right? So, for example, just to pull an example out of the air, so if I was to find a cure for cancer, I'd be a trillionaire, right? However, that's not my background. I don't understand that area. I'm not a scientist. I don't know how to set up labs and all of that. So it would be beyond my purview to focus on something like that. So first and foremost, find an idea that makes sense for you. Ideally, you want to find something that is simple enough, right? Because you want the idea, you want to be able to convey the idea to someone that they understand it straight away, right? I mean, think of complicated ideas, right? Even with simple ideas, you have to create a system. And like I said, the system is the most difficult thing to put in place. So make sure you get your idea right. Ideally, you want it to be simple. If you can find business partners, again, there's a lot of difficulty in that, right? A co-founder of a business. So let's say you're the CEO, this person is the COO, and then maybe you have a CFO. So those type of people you want to put in place as well. Again, very important. Do you need to raise some capital? Again, these things are very important to consider. So, do you have a 5-year financial plan or a 3-year financial plan that you're putting in place? Are you going to raise capital? How much capital are you going to raise? Who are you going to raise the capital from? Right? These are all different things that need to be considered. But ideally, like I said, start up with a simple idea, and then you want to come up with some type of MVP, which is a minimal viable product, right? And essentially, this is the product or the service that you are providing that you can show to someone and say, okay, this is exactly what I do, right? It needs to be, anytime we talk about MVPs, people normally think of something physical or something tech related. But actually, for a business, an MVP is just the minimum that you can show to someone and say, this is what I do. The next stage beyond that is to make some money. So you'll note that I didn't talk about business names, I didn't talk about logos, I didn't talk about websites, etc. And that's deliberate. All of those things should come down the line. The first thing is come up with an idea, an MVP, and then, most importantly, find someone to sell it to and actually sell it to them and make money, right? So, therefore, once you're able to do that, then you have proven your idea. At least that's the first stage. Next stage is to sell it again and sell it again and sell it again, right? And therefore, you've created a process. You've created your process along the way. Only then do I say go and think about ancillary things. So, you can, if you want to put together a website, yes, you can, but make it something simple because your idea might change along the way. Some people call it, you might iterate, so it changes a bit, or you might pivot completely where you realize that the market doesn't like your idea and therefore you have to completely change it. If you already had a website, a logo, and all of these things in place, you've already hired tons of people, then you've just wasted a lot of time and money. So that's why I say keep it very simple, test it, see what people think about it, sell it, and then you will know if you're on the right track.
Yes, exactly. So all what you discussed, it comes to having the clarity of vision and definiteness of purpose. Yeah, so when you are clear about what you want to achieve, what your business is about, contemplate on it, and then see as it is already there, you will start getting ideas. Maybe not everything come at once, but in the process, when you start moving towards that direction, you will see this picture more clear, and then you get more understanding. Yeah, that's why it like many people invest in website, create logo, and then in half a year they think, oh, I want it pivot and I want to do something different. So it is so true that you have to first come with this idea in the market and sell and see if people buy it. Yes, if there is really demand. And
Mhm.
also important that there will be demand that, as you said, that this idea should be related to your strength, what your strength is. Yes, what is your genius, what you really can do well and love to do. So this will make you to develop skills, because the second principle is that if you choose something, when you choose some idea, you have to be one who is difficult to replace. Yes, this is how by the law of compensation you will be creating that income. Yes, and in order to become one who is difficult to replace, you have to love what you do. Yes, so when you think about idea what you want to do in your business, don't just think about other people what they did and think, oh, that person is successful, so maybe I will do the same. Or
Mhm.
another idea who could, if you see somebody else is doing and you think it is good, it is really very important that your idea will come from you. What is your uniqueness? What you can bring to the market or to the place that is unique? Yes, something new. And how you can become that person who is difficult to replace. So when you focus on this, that money part will come as the law, as the co- according to the cause and effect. Yes. So when you are passionate about, when you know this is something that is in demand, this is problems which you can solve that people have and become very good at that, focusing on providing value, and the other things will show up how to do. And of course,
Mhm.
look for coaches, look for mentors, because like Femi, he spent 10 years just to find out, to figure out what works. And I think that the fastest way is to get mentor. Just get mentor to get you all that processes, all those systems, so you have that clarity. You know exactly what you are doing. You have your stats. You can check your progress and see how you getting better and better every day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing that you mentioned, mentors, yes, they are very important. But I would caution people that you get the right mentors, because it's very easy to go out there and find someone. Because actually, I've looked into this concept of mentorship, because I'm actually a mentor to an accelerator which is based in Amsterdam, and I'm also a mentor to this organization online. And I've also mentored a lot of people over the years. But you really need to be careful in finding your mentors, finding the right person, because sometimes people don't have enough experience. Sometimes they don't know what they're talking about, or they've read books, right? And they will tell you based upon what they've read in the book, but they've not necessarily done these things in real life. I say the caution because I've had mentors over the years, and it didn't work, right? For a variety of things. I mean, sometimes it's been my fault, sometimes it's been their fault, right? But same thing with business partners, as I mentioned. I've had a lot of business partners over the years as well. Um, sometimes it ends up being a disaster, right? So there are a lot of nuances to this thing that I think a lot of people need to be careful of, right? They say two heads or two minds are better than one. Yes, but not all the time. And I'll just end with this story. One of my cousins, he's a doctor, but he came up with this concept of Amazon before Amazon became a thing. So they used to. He's always been very entrepreneurial. They used to purchase goods from lower cost countries like China. They would bring them to the UK, they'd put them on a website, and they were selling them. And actually, the business was doing very well. The business was doing so well that every day he would finish work, he would come back, and him and his business partner would work on this idea, and they were making money. And it was actually going very well, until one day his business partner said, "Oh, I've got a new job," or something like that, and decided that he didn't want to work on the business anymore. Now, would their business have gone on to be successful like Amazon? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. However, it's just a clear example of how, he was working in this business with someone else. Everything was going well until his business partner said, "Hey, I'm getting out." And according to my cousin, he decided that he didn't want to continue with this. But he always brings up that point that, "Oh, I came up with the idea of Amazon before Amazon." Who knows where he could be today if they had continued with that business.
Yes, so true, because determination is important. Yes, what sense to start think and that the person just quits. So determination is important. And as you said, to find right mentor also so crucial, because mentor can be also good, but you are not at that level for that mentor.
Mhm.
You have to
Yeah,
grow to understand even what mentor is speaking about.
yeah.
Yes, so it is like two sides. Yes, like from one hand, maybe mentor is not competential enough, as you said, just
Mm.
the book and says that he is very good to help you. Yes, that doesn't work. And so you have to find really person who did what you want to do already. Yes, and
mm,
even many steps ahead, who has helped already other people. So, because it is not only when you can do it, but teaching people to do it, it is
mm,
a different thing. You can know how to do and you can be unconsciously competent.
mm,
But if somebody asks you how to do it, maybe you cannot teach other people exactly. Yes, so it is really important. And on other hand, you have to find mentor at your level. Yes,
mm,
executive level, because when you go too high, like
mm.
that mentor will be too big,
Yeah.
you will not even get what he's speaking about. You will be like totally different channel. You will
Mm,
not even get that. And that will be also lost investment for you. Otherwise, that mentor is good, but you are not at that level yet. So it is all about the growth, yes, and matching that you know exactly that this is the person who is good for my level, yes, and then you can look for other mentors, yes. So right mentors are very crucial, and about, of course, partners, because people can change.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
people can change. I just yesterday had a guest on my podcast, and he said that there were three partners, and
Mm,
they took loans. They uh, yes, they brought some investments from other people. Yes,
mm.
and one partner just stolen money, and
Wow.
those two just wow, like they not only lost their money, they lost other people money. And first question was what to do, like in this
Mm,
situation. But it is good that second partner encouraged him to continue, because he said that we did this within 3 years. So now
mm,
we can do this even shorter, within 1 year. And they set the goal and they became successful. They again created that money to start, and became successful. Yeah, so it can be very really very different thing, because you have really to know people, and to know their goals. Yeah, I think that how to identify it, if it is right partner, their goals should be really big, outside of just what they want for themselves and for their families, and also their standards. Yes, I think those standards, like people who live according to those high world class standards. Yes, when they are trustworthy, when they are committed, determined, when they make decisions, when they act accordingly, it is very important, because all people can dream, yes, and say, "Oh, I want to do that," but are you really will do what it takes to get there, and how much you committed when it doesn't work 1 year or 2 years? Are you really committed to continue and to do every day what it takes?
mm. Yeah, I mean, very good points. I mean, I've had business partners as well, and things didn't work out. In fact, I was talking about this recently, around about 2 weeks ago. I mean, it came up in my mind because I had a startup. It was in the health tech space, and so there were three of us who we were supposed to be working on it, and then one of them had a full time job, so he couldn't work on it as much. And then suddenly the second one started falling back, and then he got a full time job. And then in the end, it was just me working on it full time, and I wasn't being paid. Right, we didn't have any money. We hadn't raised any money at this point, and we just got to the point where we were starting to raise money, and that was my responsibility. And actually, like you talked about with the example that you just gave, I decided to pull back from the fundraising because I saw the way that everyone else was starting to behave. Right. So let's say, because I was using my network, we were starting with the friends and family around, and then I'd also found an investor externally. And I just thought that, if things go sideways, which they eventually did, then all of these people are going to say, "Hey, well, what happened to my money?" And I didn't want that situation. So I think it is very important to be very careful in choosing your partners, and also in the when it comes to the money side as well, because well, I mean, what is someone's threshold? So they see 10,000 in the account and they're okay, but the temptation grows when it's 100,000 or 500,000 and they have direct access to it. Yeah, those are, yeah, many different things to consider.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So, anything else that you would like to advise maybe before we wrap up this episode to people who start their business?
Well, some advice that I always give to people, which I learned later on, is the mental aspect of things. I think I might have touched on it a bit, but I think the mental aspect is very important because entrepreneurship, being an entrepreneur for 10 years and speaking to other entrepreneurs, entrepreneurship is a very lonely journey. It is extremely lonely because think about it, as an employee, you wake up and you travel to go to the office, and you're sitting in an office, and you're part of this conveyor belt where you're working with other people, and other people are calling you and dealing with you, right? And like I said, that process is already in place, right? You go to work, at the end of the month, money comes into your account. You go to work, even if you are not really producing anything, right? Or you're not seeing anything, that money is going into your bank account at the end of the day. As an entrepreneur, you could be working 80, 100 hours a week. And at the end of the month, you look in your bank account and there's no money, right? These kind of things can be very debilitating for an entrepreneur. They can be very deflating, especially when people normally think, okay, work equals money. If someone doesn't have money, they're not working hard enough, right? And it's not the case. It is just that it takes thousands of hours to build this process, to get things out there for people to know who you are, right? Like I said, I mean, you could have the best business idea in the world, you could have the best website, you could have the experience, but if no one knows who you are, no one is going to buy from you. No one is going to buy your product or service. And so that's why I would say things like exercise are very important. Even if it's 20 minutes a day, make sure you get up and you move. Meditation is another one that I've incorporated into my routine as well as at some point I was doing qigong as well, which is something else people can look into. I think that is a good practice. And finally, I would say a therapist. If you can find a therapist, I would say that is good as well. The reason a therapist is good is because they are trained to listen to you. Your wife, if you're married, or your husband, or your friends, your family, they are not trained to listen to what you're saying. It is just human nature, right? You're talking. The way the human mind typically works is that you are talking and you're waiting for the other person to stop talking so that you can make your point, right? This is typically how things go. So if you have a friend or a family member who you're telling about your issues, what the advice that they're going to give to you is based upon what they would do. So they would say, oh, it's not working out, quit, go back to the corporate world. In other words, they're telling you to give up your dream. Or that's what it sounds like. All they're telling you is that they don't have the willpower to be an entrepreneur, right? And you need to be very careful speaking to about it, because in the early days I took it personally, because I had so many people telling me, "Hey, you're not good at this thing." This is friends and family members, and they're still my friends and family members. They told me, "Oh, I don't think you're good at this. Go and do something else." But again, they were not speaking from a place of malice. They were speaking from what they would do. And so that's why it's important that you find some type of network of other entrepreneurs, a therapist, and then you do things to work on your health, because it is very stressful as well. So your blood pressure, these are the things that you really need to monitor in order to be successful in what you do.
Yes, yes, thank you for sharing that. Yes, really. Entrepreneurship can be a very lonely journey, and that is why important to create habits. It's
Mm,
important routine to go out, do something you love to do, or gym, or maybe playing tennis or whatever. And like I do, I go dancing. Yeah, I found community, and every week I dance for a few hours, and it gives me that energy because it is important to do something that makes us feel good. Yes, because we have to move, we have to all our body, it has to blood has to circulate. Yes, that is
mm,
energy. When we move, we are like those batteries. We
mm,
move, we get charged. If we just stay uh, stagnant for few hours a day after day, it will affect our energy level. We will feel
mm.
like more slow, more lazy, and no energy. So this is very crucial to find something that really inspires you, that makes you move and feel good about yourself, because you have also to encourage yourself and acknowledge for what you do, even if you don't see results fast, but
Mm.
still you always can find the small even wins. And it is important to acknowledge yourself for those wins and celebrate even if they're small,
Mm.
because it will give you that little moments of joy. Yes, and you need that to keep moving, to keep being excited and see your big goals and have that big vision.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, dancing is actually a very good is a good type of practice, and that's because it's dynamic movement, right? It is not something. It is not A B A B A B, right? It is a dynamic movement, and that is why I mentioned something like qigong, right? And the way I always think about it in my mind is I've got my masculine energy, but I also need to work on my feminine energy as well. And I think a lot of men, but also women as well, because we're brought up in this society where in order to be successful, you have to have that strength, that masculine energy. You need to reflect that, but the feminine aspect is also important, and that is why things like meditation, qigong, dancing, these kind of dynamic movements, both of them are very important in order to be successful, because otherwise, like I said, you can have situations that you end up being unhealthy. And I'm 44, and the only reason I mention that is that once you get over the age of 40, you start to get all of these. I mean, your body is slowing down, but health wise as well, you start to get all of these. If you're not careful, you will start to get these issues, right? And I only mention my age because I spoke to a friend of mine and he said, "Hey, so and so had a heart attack," and I was like, "What? Really?" I was like, "Wow!" And then I speak to someone else, and I was speaking to someone else, and he said, "Hey, my dad had a heart attack at the age of 40," and I was like, "Wow!" And again, you might not think about these things, but when you're in a high stress environment, particularly as an entrepreneur, mental and physical issues, and both of them do go hand in hand. It's very important to stay on top of it because you don't want to be the multimillionaire who has health issues afterwards. I mean, what is the point, right? Cancer, stroke, heart attack, all of these things. So you need to think about your diet, your exercise, your mental well being. All of these things are good. It's worthwhile keeping on top of them, even if you have to take a bit of a break from your business. If you have to put down the business, maybe even go back to the corporate world for some time, hey, as long as are thinking about these externalities, these things are very important.
Yes, yes, I like you mentioned that, because in order to be successful, we have to prioritize our health.
Hmm.
Yes, we cannot prioritize anything else, because if we get everything else but lose our health, it doesn't worth. Yes, because people who have s- s- strong bad diseases, they
Mm.
would pay everything just
Yeah.
to buy one day healthy or to live without pain. Yes,
Mm.
so, and in many cases, when we have good health, we can take it as granted. We just
Yep.
think that it will always be this way. Yes, we
Mhm.
can just think that nothing happens. I feel amazing, and I will just continue doing and neglect myself for years.
Mm.
I think nothing will happen, but that can happen very suddenly, and it doesn't happen next day when we neglect our health, yes, or in a day, but it gets compounded. Yes,
Mm.
it gets compounded maybe in 1 year or in 2 years, but it can come just suddenly, and we can face issues with our health. So it is better to prevent that situation. It is always better to prevent than to deal with it. Yes, and in some cases, it may be even too late.
Mm.
Yes,
Yep.
so when we understand that our health is priority and also ourselves should be priority because the most important person in the world is you.
Yep.
Yes, everyone is the most important for themselves because it is only one them. Yes, and even
Yeah.
for families, they have to take care of themselves.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very good point because I was speaking to a friend yesterday, and he's going through some issues with his marriage, and he has his own business too, and he was saying that it was money related. And I was like, that doesn't sound right because I can give you a list of many billionaires who are now divorced, right? And I said to him, I was like, Bill Gates is divorced, and he's one of the richest men in the world. So a lot of these things are not money related. And then also, all you have to do is look down the list of all of the Hollywood actors, right, who committed suicide, right? A lot of them have wealth, they have fame, right? So it is not those things. So I think sometimes, actually all the time, you have to step back and say, look, even though it's important for me to fulfill this dream, it's important for me to make this money, but I also need to prioritize my happiness because I think happiness, contentment, those are the things that come at the end of the equation. Really, the end of the equation is not money, like they try to tell us it is on TV and Hollywood. Oh, you get money and fame, and everything suddenly falls into place. Justin Bieber is another example. They're talking about him a lot at the moment. I mean, he's been famous since he was 13, right? So I think he is about 30 now. So it is not fame, it is not the money. There are many, many other things that we need to prioritize. And even if it takes you twice as long to get there, maybe you'd have been a millionaire in the first year, but you had a heart attack. It's better to do it in 2 years or 3 years, but remain healthy.
Yes, yes, exactly. So true. Yes, the goal achievement process should be enjoyable. Yes, what sense is to just push hard every day and struggle and not to be happy because we don't know even how much time we have. Everyone lives like they have 4,000 to 5,000 years agreement
Yeah.
guaranteed. But we don't know. That's why it is so important to live every day and be happy. And happiness comes with fulfillment when you not just beat yourself about something that you didn't achieve or didn't do, but when you enjoy the process, when you enjoy the growth, you see how you evolve every day, how you become better, compare with who you were yesterday. Yes, and celebrate your small wins, live in the present moment, find time to do something that you really enjoy. So
Mm.
this is the life which is just in present moment. We can live only now. We cannot live in the past and we don't know how much future we have. So what
Mm.
we have is just now. And the right attitude towards ourselves, towards this present moment, towards our life will also determine life attitude towards us.
Yeah, yeah. I mentioned my age, and the reason I mentioned my age is because, the generation above me are starting to pass away, right? So one of my aunties, I mean, she was very young. She was 67. She was in the house. Her daughter came home, and she was unresponsive, right? And like I said, I mean, she was 67, which is not, it's not old. And they've been concerned about her, and they were talking a bit about her health. And she said, "Oh, I'm working on it." Right. And that was one of the situations recently that gave me pause because, like I said, in your 20s, your 30s, you're not thinking about these things as much. But then when you hit your 40s, that is the time that people my age are starting to think about these health related issues. And then a generation above me, some of them start to pass away. But I think it is still, it's still possible if you take care of yourself, because we have a family friend and she is 90, and then I have another auntie who's going to celebrate her 80th birthday very soon, right? So I think, we definitely don't know how long we have here. We just assume that, we can continue um, drinking as much as we want and eating whatever we want, and the body will just handle it. But the thing with heart attacks or strokes, these things will come on suddenly, and the thing also with things like mental health episodes as well. Again, these things will come on suddenly, and some of these things you cannot predict when they're going to happen, and they could have a debilitating effect for the rest of your of the time. And I say that because a lot of entrepreneurs. Apparently, amongst entrepreneurs, mental health episodes, as well as stress related and heart disease and all of these things are much, much higher. But like I said, part of the issue and the things that we're trying to chase is because of the media. Oh, this company just raised 100 million. This company has $1 billion valuation, right? But actually, if you scratch beneath the surface, you'll find that most startups, most businesses do not go that way. Most businesses will not reach a $1 billion valuation. You will most businesses will never become $1 trillion companies. Most people will not become millionaires, let alone billionaires, right? Most people actually become millionaires in their 50s. But yet the media spins this narrative that, okay, if you work harder, then you can become a billionaire. You can be the next tech billionaire. And I think this idea of you go on Instagram, for example, everyone has a Lamborghini, everyone has a six pack, everyone is happy. But in reality, life doesn't work that way. And most businesses never get to that level. We can talk about all of the reasons why. Basically, I mean, the short version is that capital, or most of the money in the world, is pooled among a small group of people. So when you hear about these Silicon Valley billionaires and multimillionaires, it is because they are in those circles. If you're not within those circles now, the chances of you getting there is very slim. But the good news is that above 150,000 US dollars per annum, there is no extra increase in happiness. So between 150,000 US dollars and billions, you cannot get happier. So if your goal is to make 150,000, 200,000, then you're not it's not going to make you any happier. So actually, the final point I want to make is you have to have the ability to forgive yourself, because we get told in society that we need to forgive other people, but we're never told about forgiving ourselves. And I think that is very important. You make a mistake, you don't do something, your business collapsed, your marriage collapsed, you need to be able to just forgive yourself and start anew, because I think a lot of people carry that burden with them, and they carry it in their hearts. I can't forgive myself. I should have done this. Why didn't I do this? I should have gone in this direction. I should have done that. I should have spoken to that person. And they will carry it for many, many, many years, right? Decades. People have an inability to forgive themselves, and they keep putting it in the same pot, right? That lack of forgiveness as the years go by, you're putting it in the same pot. And that's where a lot of the unhappiness will stem from. Let it go and start anew.
Yes, yes. I so agree with you. Yeah, forgive yourself, forgive others, because energy which you send to universe will come back to you. If you don't forgive yourself or others, it will be like pulling you down. It will negative energy with low frequencies, and you cannot afford being at that place because you have to be at frequency of your goal, and you
Mm,
have to be in the state of gratitude. You cannot be angry or thinking that you cannot forgive somebody and at the same time be grateful and thinking thank you for goal which you already achieved in the future. Yeah, so it is the state which we are very important, because our state, like frequencies which our body emitted and sent to universe, will determine which channel we are. We cannot be at AM and listen what is in FM. Yes, so if we at AM, we will listen only programs which are AM transmitted. And if we want to switch to FM, we have to change frequency. And exactly in life, we are dwelling in different frequencies, like so unlimited number of channels, and all people, they can be in the same situation, in the same room, but each of them are in different channels. Like
mm,
well, if their frequencies, and this is why people can attract only what is in their channel, right? Like what is that frequency they are at. So when it comes about forgiveness, it is not even because of other people. Maybe they did wrong, but it is not even about them. When you forgive, you just release that negative emotions from your which accumulated in your body. You want to get it out because you want to be in that beautiful light state. And it is much better to send love to them, send love to universe, love yourself, because it will help you to be at that frequency and attract more good to come into your life, instead of just thinking about what you lost or what went wrong. Just let things in the past which were in the past, because it is already gone. And what you do today, what you focus today, your energy, your gratefulness, and what you think about today will determine your future, not things what happened in the past, because past already is in the past.
hmm Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the past is gone, and yeah, I mean, I think as a society, yeah, I think it's easier to say, right? It's easier to say these things than to do them, right? So, I mean, I put on the news and I see what's happening with Palestine and Israel at the moment, right? I mean, those kind of things they're difficult to forgive, and it's understandable, right? So these things, and if you were to go through a bad divorce, right? These things they are very difficult to let go of, but I think for the sake of happiness and peace, you need to find a way to compartmentalize them and let them go. And I guess that is what I'm trying to get across. It's very important to make sure that see what your role was, see what the other person did to you, and sometimes you will just have to find a way to let it go, because otherwise, if you dwell on it, it will just it will just continue for decades talking about the same issue. Um, like I said, therapist, professional help, these things are very good to get over these kind of situations.
Yes, and remember that you become what you think about. So focus your thoughts, intentions on your goal, do every day what is taken, and you will see the guidance on the way. When you are committed, when you're determined, when your goal is big enough, which scares you from one side and excites you from another side, you are on the right way.
Yep. And look, I mean, this is why, after 10 years of being an entrepreneur, I don't just talk about what it takes to become successful or being rich. I mean, I barely have those conversations anymore because I realize that there's so many other factors to dealing with things. I mean, I hate to say it, but a lot of my friends are in the process of getting divorced or been divorced, right? And these are the conversations that I'm starting to have with them because a lot of these processes I have had to put in place for the past 10 years because I was essentially on my own trying to figure these things out. And which also takes me back to my business as well. This is why my business, I describe it as a hybrid consulting firm because we're not a digital marketing agency. We focus on a lot of things pertaining to the growth of a business. So it could be small things. So I asked the entrepreneur that I'm working with, I said, okay, tell me the processes of once I find you a lead, what happens after that? I want you to go through step by step. And then she said something to me. I said, okay, well, where is that presentation? Oh, I haven't done it yet. All right, that's your homework. Go and do that presentation because I guarantee you, once I give you a lead, you're going to be scrambling trying to figure things out. Put those things in place
Mhm.
before we start. And again, it's not my business, it is her business, but it's important that I look out for her so that she can help me as well. And so this is an ancillary or a secondary part for the business that makes the whole thing work. And again, things like health should be part of this process. Your physical health, your mental health, all of these things come together in making a business successful.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Femi. Yes, it was really a great conversation and I enjoyed so much. And I would suggest everyone to listen to it so many times because we discussed very important topics and all of those ingredients of success is in this conversation.
Yep. Thank you very much for having me.
You're most welcome.